Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I rise to support the current Export Market Development Grants Legislation Amendment Bill 2020. This long-standing reimbursement scheme provides financial assistance to Australia's small and medium enterprises, SMEs, and encourages them to create, develop and expand export markets for Australian goods, services and intellectual property. Mr Deputy Speaker, I sit on the Parliamentary Trade and Investment Growth Committee, and we've heard from a variety of exporters and how important this grant is to their survival, but also to their sense of innovation and to providing them with assistance in those early stages of trying to get up off the ground. Now, Mr Deputy Speaker, we know how important being an export country it is to our future. We understand that we need to increase diversification of our trading assets, but also diversification of our trading partners. And that is what the two inquiries that the Trade and Investment Growth Committee has been looking at during the course of this year and the last part of last year. This bill establishes an entitlement for eligible exporters which reimburses recipients up to 50% of eligible export promotion expenses above $5,000, provided the total expenses are at least $15,000. It also provides a wide range of expenditure to be eligible under the new scheme, reflecting the different ways that different businesses approach different markets. Now, Mr Deputy Speaker, again, the Trade and Investment Growth Committee heard from such a diverse group of exporters. I myself am a medical researcher, and I know how difficult it can be to predict the future when you are trying to develop something for a commercial market. And it's important that we have a flexible approach to ensure that these companies can deal with developing their business in a way that suits their needs. Importantly, this bill also provides SMEs access to multi-year entitlements, reflecting the time to build a presence in the market and providing funding certainty and confidence. And again, Mr Deputy Speaker, I reflect on my time in medical research and how important having those multi-year agreements can be with regards to their long-term certainty with regards to planning. This funding certainty has never been more important for our SMEs who rely so heavily on this grant for their innovation, and particularly in this post-COVID environment that we are finding ourselves in. Mr Deputy Speaker, I recently met with local constituents in my electorate, Tom and Belinda, who together own an export business which has been growing for 13 years. Tom and Belinda took over from Tom's father 3 years ago, and they've watched their company, Sandylands Exports, grow from strength to strength. They have also been pivotal in helping other Australian businesses take their products and services to the world stage. They achieved this by helping businesses obtain and maximise the Export Market Development Grant. Tom and Belinda, like many exporters, want less red tape, as the additional paperwork comes as an added expense to their business and is far more onerous to the applicant. Mr Deputy Speaker, our government has conducted a review of financial assistance to SME exporters, which was conducted by Anna Fisher of Zomty's Footsteps, a wine exporter and former recipient of this funding scheme. So Anna knows exactly what is required when it comes to using these sorts of reimbursements to help grow business. This review examined the effectiveness of the scheme and the efficiency model for delivering financial assistance for Australia's SME exporters to encourage additional export development and promotional activities. Now, I always love a review because it's about engaging with those people who are in the scheme rather than just applying what we think is going to work. And the review involved extensive stakeholder consultation with over 5,000 participants. And this provided invaluable feedback about the EMDG, which included, of course, peak body engagement. 158 submissions were received, finding that while the EMDG is valued by SME exporters, its administration was too complex and needed simplification. Exactly what my constituents have been calling for. And again, I have been in granting processes, and you can spend a lot of time filling out paperwork when actually what you want to do is get on with the business of doing business. The government has responded by changing EMDG from a reimbursement scheme to an eligibility-based grants program to encourage export-ready businesses like the one in my electorate, who will now be able to access new markets and increase their exports and expand. And Mr Deputy Speaker, this is what we need with regards to growing as an economy going forward in the post-COVID world. The review also found that each SME's export journey is entirely unique, not surprisingly, meaning financial assistance needs to be tailored along the way to accommodate their changing needs. And we also know that as businesses change, their needs change. The review recommended EMDG be retargeted towards exporters with a turnover of less than $20 million at 3 stages of their export journey. It recommends that the EMDG targets those exporters who are ready to take their business overseas for the first time, or those that are growing, and those that are undertaking a strategic shift. And this, we know, is so important. We don't want flatlining businesses. We want businesses that are looking for opportunities, that are looking for growth. We want to take businesses from good to great, rather than just investing in businesses that are not necessarily going places. The review presented a persuasive case for the need to better target EMDG funding towards those SMEs who can make the best use of public money. Additionally, the review also concluded that businesses don't always require government funding to help them through the export journey. That in fact large exporting businesses saw EMDG funding as nice to have, but not essential. It wasn't an incentive to invest in more export promotion activity. Exporters with a turnover of $20 million and over found that the EMDG payment was equivalent to less than 0.15% of their total revenue, and hence our recommendations for the SMEs with a turnover under $20 million receive the assistance in order to ensure the funding of taxpayers' funding is best targeted where it will have the greatest impact. Importantly, this will also now be able to provide industry associations the assistance they need to support their members who haven't been export ready in order to help them become so. The Morrison government has accepted in principle each of the review's recommendations, and this bill implements those recommendations. Mr Deputy Speaker, under this bill, the current EMDG design features and principles have been preserved, including assistance being focused on export market development and promotion, the establishment of an entitlement for eligible exporters, and providing for a wide range of expenditure to be eligible, reflecting the different way businesses are approaching their markets. Also importantly, the multi-year entitlements. But the principle that SMEs must have skin in the game remains intact and is fundamental. Again, we know that you want to teach someone to fish, you give them a fishing line, but it's important that they also place the bait on the hook. They will need to receive a proportion of this will help them with them receiving their proportion of their eligible expenditure. We'll also continue to subject the EMDG to continual evaluation, which of course is something I always think is very, very important, so that we make sure that people are complying with the processes that they should. So, Mr Deputy Speaker, I'd like to conclude by saying this Export Market Development Grants Legislation Amendment Bill 2020 makes sure support and assistance to SMEs is targeted, it's streamlined, we cut down on red tape, and we help these businesses which are open, flexible and, most importantly, growing in the export market, because as we go forward in a post-COVID world, we want to make sure that these businesses help us to grow our economy for a better future for all Australians. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker.